Up and Adam.
Tractor systems are offline.
We are Beyond FM.
Beyond FM.
The future of broadcasting is here.
Up and Adam with Adam Montiel. It's community content from Concentrate. It's Up and Adam with Adam Montiel.
Some say life is where it begins. Straight to the stars is where it ends. Yes, some say life is just where it begins. Straight to the stars is where it ends. Only to start again.
Happy Thursday. Let's do this. Thank you so much for being Up and Adam. My name is Adam Montiel. Okay, so Greenland has been in the headlines. Military talks, rare earth minerals, polar shipping lanes, even whispers of a U.S. takeover. What is really going on at the top of the world? Yeah, later on Up and Adam, we're getting into it with journalist, war correspondent. This guy's won a bunch of awards for his work. Kenneth R. Rosen, his new book called Polar War, takes us into the ice, undersea spy missions, secret bases, melting permafrost, and why the once forgotten frozen frontier is now like the hottest geopolitical chessboard on Earth. If you've ever wondered why Russia, why China, why Denmark, why the U.S. are bellyaching about a place that few people will ever see, this is the interview to stick around for. Trust me, the Arctic isn't just melting, it is boiling. A lot going on. We'll be talking to Kenneth in just a sec. Before that, want to thank my friends at Life Elements for being Up and Adam, hidden in the back corner of a plaza in Atascadero, a woman literally practicing wellness alchemy. Life Elements, where you can walk in, see things being made in real time, leave with a little something maybe Martha just whipped up for you. A lotion, a stick, maybe even a bug spray you didn't know that you needed. Everything is small batch, cruelty-free, and made with real healing in mind. Think arnica, calendula, magnesium, full broad spectrum CBD. It's no wonder their Relief Stick is a bestseller across the country, and they're from right here in our hometown. In addition to their spot in Atascadero, you could shop their products at The Hive in Arroyo Grande, the General Store in Paso, and of course, lifeelements.com. There you can actually use the promo code ADAM, A-D-A-M, get 15% off your cart. It lets them know you heard them on Up and Adam, lifeelements.com. Use that promo code ADAM and let your wellness meet its maker.
It's Up and Adam with Adam Montiel.
All right, everywhere you look right now, it's Greenland, the Arctic, the rising tension between world powers, from military bases to rare earth minerals. So take a drink every time you've heard rare earth minerals in the last few years, right? The headlines, well, they're getting louder, but few people really know what's going on up there. Our guest today, he does. Kenneth R. Rosen is an award-winning war correspondent and the author of Polar War, Submarines, Spies, and the Struggle for Power in a Melting Arctic. He's been inside the bases, on the icebreakers, and in the rooms where this Cold War is taking shape. The book is pretty gripping. Sobering look at how conflict, climate, competition are kind of all colliding at the top of the world, and what that means for really the rest of us. Welcome, Kenneth. Man, thank you so much for spelling this out, for being Up and Adam.
Hey, Adam, no worries. I appreciate your time as well.
So, look, most of us picture the Arctic as this remote tundra, still silent, almost mythic, right? But in Polar War, you kind of paint it more like a poker table, except the chips are nukes, oil, vanishing ice. When did you realize the Arctic wasn't just melting, but it was militarizing? Was there a single kind of moment where that shift hit you hard?
It must have been at some point when reporting Polar War that I was transitioning from a Norwegian Coast Guard vessel, icebreaker, to an American Coast Guard vessel, and would spend the next 4 days with the Americans, heading back to mainland Norway when a Russian Coast Guard vessel and helicopter buzzed the boat that we were on, the other icebreaker that we were on, and caused a stir among the crew and staff on the U.S. Coast Guard vessel. It wasn't until the boat and the helicopter disappeared that we were all waiting for the U.S. Poseidon spy plane to come and sort of show force, an American force. But it was having trouble getting below the clouds because the clouds freeze the wings and cause issues with the flight. And I realized then that, maybe America wasn't such a supreme power in this region that it once dominated. And that helped shape the outcome of the book and help me formulate my take on what we need to do to be better as an Arctic power.
I mean, this couldn't be more timely, literally in the headlines all over the place. Yesterday, I just read Secretary of State Marco Rubio said he's meeting with Denmark about Greenland. And there's actual talk, the White House, again, about, they're floating, they're trolling a little bit with the U.S. military to acquire it. And that's not The Onion, that's CNBC, right? So from your reporting, how much of this Greenland obsession is realpolitik? How much is theater designed to flex power in a part of the world that most Americans barely even think about?
It's really hard for me to square the current news coming out of Greenland and Washington. But what I do know is that, Greenland has been in the sights of the U.S. ever since the mid 1800s. It's always been something that the U.S. has wanted. But in the Treaty of the West Indies in 1916 between Denmark and the U.S. agreed to in perpetuity to recognize the sovereignty of Denmark over Greenland, and by virtue of doing that, also was able to open up a military base in the north of the country. So as far as, the president's desire to get Greenland for the security of the United States, we have already been and have almost always been in a really great position security-wise with our relationship between Denmark and Greenland. And what more we can gain from that is not quite clear. I can see some speculative desires towards rare earth minerals and other opportunities therein. But as of now, we've maintained and had a strong security apparatus there, and anything that would deteriorate that only sets us back farther.
I had no idea that it went back even before World War II. Like, I know we had radar in Greenland, air bases, total Arctic access, and Denmark barely, we got them back on their feet. And why did the U.S. hand Greenland back to Denmark after the war? I guess you're saying it's because it dates so further back. And would the Arctic look completely different today if we hadn't maybe let that moment pass?
I'm not sure it would look much different. I don't know how much appetite there'd be domestically to develop Greenland, and we can look at Alaska and see how little development has gone on there. Talking about the Brooks Range and north and beyond there, other than the Trans-Alaska pipeline. Maybe the strategic position of the U.S. in the Arctic would be moderately different, but right now what we have in Greenland is our northernmost base. And it serves its purpose well, as does our strategic positions across Alaska. I know that the Greenlandic people that I spoke to for the book are in no way, shape, or form interested in being under the rule of another colonizing power, and are in fact seeking their own self-determination and independence from Denmark. So all the conversations about getting Greenland and what it could do for us is eliding the fact that the people of Greenland need to have their voices heard, and what their voices have been saying for decades now is that they want to be independent and self-sufficient.
That's so interesting. Now let's talk realpolitik in the Arctic, because nobody's up there there for the polar bears anymore. The U.S. wants Greenland for radar coverage, minerals, military reach. Denmark's, like you just mentioned, I mean, they're not rearming out of sentiment. They're probably trying to hold ground while China circles. Like you said, the Greenlanders want their own kind of, self-determination. China, I mean, they're not studying Inuit art up there. They want rare earth. They want shipping lanes. So it's not about doing good. It's kind of about gaining ground, it feels like. In all the tension and territorial posturing, where do Denmark and the U.S. actually find common ground? And what are those chess pieces? Do you think Denmark or Greenland sees the U.S.? What do they want? What could they get to perhaps consider working with the U.S., you think?
I think what Denmark is afraid of losing is its Arctic status. If it loses Greenland, it loses its place on the world stage as an Arctic power. Just in December, Denmark signed an agreement with the U.S. to purchase more Poseidon surveillance aircraft that would benefit the surveillance of Greenland, which is 2.5 times the size of Texas. It's large and mostly covered by ice. I think that if the U.S. continues to sort of push its ally away and say that it wants to do it better, it's only a bit of irony because it hasn't really done that great in Alaska, and I don't foresee it doing better in Greenland. China's a pacing threat in the Arctic as it is elsewhere in the world, and Russia's certainly a threat in the Arctic. But we're stronger together, right? And we've seen that with the cooperative defense agreements that we've had with Denmark for years and with the Nordic nations who are frankly better and more prepared for Arctic warfare than the U.S. is.
You mentioned submarines under the pole, Russian flags on the seafloor, and bases in Siberia buzzing with activity. And then there's the Z flag. What's the most misunderstood thing Americans still don't grasp about Russia's Arctic ambition?
I mean, Russia has historically seen itself as the Arctic power, dating all the way back to Stalin propaganda. And it maintains two small colonies on Svalbard, the archipelago of Svalbard, which is just north of Norway in the Arctic Ocean, and believes that it has a claim to much of the water in the Arctic. Whether it goes beyond its exclusive economic zone is another story. But Russia is also threatened by climate change. It's 60% of the country is underlain by permafrost, and every year that permafrost thaws more and more, leading to the expulsion of more and more carbon and threatening their own infrastructure along the coastline, whether that be liquid natural gas facilities and military bases where they maintain their strategic nuclear forces. So it's an existential threat to Russia, and one can view it as the reason behind their desire to shore up their Arctic place as they are ostensibly facing the loss of it.
Do you think the next global mishap involving Russia might actually start in the North, not in Europe or Asia?
I think the opposite. I think it might originate from the Arctic. I think that, at least as we've seen in Ukraine, a lot of the bombing runs and the drone runs that are being conducted against Kyiv and the rest of Ukraine originate from the Kola Peninsula. So it's a very real possibility that the over-horizon threats that were so prevalent during the Cold War come back.
So we throw the phrase Cold War around a lot, but this time, I mean, it actually seems literal. Ice is melting, so is diplomacy in a lot of ways. Is this truly a Cold War reborn, or are we kind of looking at something altogether more volatile, more fragmented, even more dangerous?
I think when we search for comparisons, we often tend to find the ones that we're most familiar with. So, referring to it as a new Cold War or a new ice curtain, as I've heard experts call it, it helps us understand, or at least appreciate the gravity of what's happening in the high north. I'm not really sure that we've been paying enough attention to be able to compete in that sphere. But if we put aside the conversations happening in Greenland and Denmark and look to what we need to do to be able to defend ourselves as a nation, we can better the people who live there, and we could also secure our homeland for years to come. And whether or not the climate has any impact on that is still being played out.
What part of the new Arctic, Kenneth, of that conflict, do you think history will say we misunderstood the most?
That, the Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev called it a zone of peace. And that was at the end of the Cold War and the dissolution of the Soviet Union. And I think the fact that that there was so much rhetoric dating back to the first Trump administration from then Secretary of State Mike Pompeo about, a need to talk about security issues in the high north has cast a pall over the region. And I think we'll look back on those years and say that we should have focused more on climate cooperation and scientific research cooperation rather than annexing discussion when it is such a large puzzle piece in the matters of global climate change.
Finally, I'm curious, do you think Greenland's next chapter will be written by its own people, or more whoever has the biggest navy nearby? I'm
cautiously optimistic and hopeful that the history will be written by the Inuit people of Greenland.
Yeah, Polar War. It's really fascinating stuff. You've done remarkable work with it. Kenneth R. Rosen, we got links in the show notes. Thank you so much for taking the time and chatting with me. Appreciate you, my man, for being up and Adam.
Adam, thank you.
Some say life's where it begins. Straight to the stars is where it ends. Only to start again.
Kenneth R. Rosen, book available wherever you get your books. We'll put a link to it in the show notes. Thanks for the chat, my man. All right, short and sweet today. Well, everyone's talking about Greenland, and then I even read the article where like Rubio's going to be meeting with them next week. So this interview couldn't have come at a better time, more appropriate and timely time. So there you go. All right, beautiful day, cool temps. We're going to see them on the rise. In about a week or so, we're going to be up to around 70, but until then, mild temps throughout the week. Want to thank our friends at Moonshiner Collective for being up and at 'em. Regular music on the show, you hear it, called Start Again. You could stream them wherever you get your musica. And make sure you go to moonshinercollective.com to learn more. Also want to thank our friends at Timbre Winery. Taste their world-class wines in the village of Arroyo Grande. Timbre, timbrewinery.com for more. And I thank them for the Timbre Lobro Studios. I want to thank you. This doesn't happen without you connecting here. Appreciate you more than you know. Please rate, review, subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to it. It means so, so much. Till tomorrow. Hope you have a wonderful day. Hope your week is going fantastical. Till then, I'm Adam Montiel. Thanks for being up and at 'em.
Some say life's where it begins. Straight to the stars is where it ends. Only to start again. Let's start again. We'll start again. Let's start again.